one of Trump's newest fake friends is Lin Wood, because if you all remember names that were released a few weeks ago on who the Fulton grand jury wanted to indict, and then Fani Willis declined to indict these individuals. One of those people was pro-Trump lawyer Lin Wood, no longer a lawyer, was a lawyer at the time. And now we see why Willis may not have moved forward with charges, because in a filing arguing that attorneys for Trump's co-defendants may have conflicts of interest, Willis named Wood as one of those people slated to serve as witnesses for the state. From the Hill, a special purpose grand jury just heard evidence in the probe for months, had recommended Wood be indicted, but prosecutors ultimately opted against charging him with Trump and 18 others last month. Wood previously indicated that he had been subpoenaed to appear before the special grand jury. Continues on, Wood said he received the subpoena last week after the indictment was handed up to testify at next month's trial. He dispelled the notion that he had reached some sort of agreement with prosecutors. Of course he did. Of course he was trying to dispel that notion. He did it pretty firmly in an interview. He said this: There's zero truth to that, Wood said when asked if he had turned against Trump, although why wouldn't he? He's lost everything. He's lost his ability to practice law. His entire career is faced trials, he's faced disciplinary hearings because of his defense of Trump. Why wouldn't he turn on him? Why wouldn't he turn on them? But he posted this to Telegram, still defending Trump, still defending his actions. He posted this, it says, I have been subjected to a barrage of mockingbird media requests this morning to comment on stories claiming that I have, quote, flipped on President Trump because I have been subpoenaed as a witness in the Powell case. There is no truth to those accusations. I have no idea why I am being asked to testify at the trial. I think you have some idea. I have had no discussions with the DA's office since I testified before the special grand jury several months ago. Strikes me as yet another effort by the fake media to attack or smear me. Super relevant, Lin Wood. Someone that the media needs to get after. Someone super hot in the news, Lin Wood. But he ends it with saying fake news is fake news, always has been, always will be. Enjoy your afternoon. God bless each of you. I don't understand this right-wing obsession with Telegram. He's got it. We'll pull up this next one as well. But like, I don't even understand how that works. But they're all on it, and they're all planning crimes in broad daylight.
Right, like the big. I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on. That's right, Telegram exists. I forget which one it is, but it was one of those. It's like Twitter sucks, and then they went off and they ran it, and then it made enough people say Twitter sucks, where Twitter's like, I got to get out of this business. Then it gets sold to Elon Musk, and half of them are like, I don't know what to do. Should I go back to Twitter now that I guess this electric car maker is in charge of it, but somehow I like him, but still Lin Wood's on Telegram, probably because it's the only one that's on its phone, and he doesn't know how to get it off his phone, and he thinks it is Twitter. I don't know.
Telegram got to make a lot of appearances in the January 6th trials, though. So very hot in evidence by the prosecution in those trials.
So ridiculous. And here's the thing about Lin Wood and Donald Trump and anyone else caught up in this, like, isn't he flipping on Trump? It's like their brand is lying. Mm-hmm. That is their brand. Their whole thing is equivocation, sliminess, saying one thing to you and another thing at the country club. Like all the stuff that on paper Trump fans would hate is stuff that Trump and his cabal of misfits absolutely do back to the people who say they would hate that stuff. Mm-hmm. So Lin Wood is completely Lin Wooding. He's completely like staying within his brand circle to say, no, I'm not doing any of this. And then saying the easy peasy thing to say when you're cornered, fake news, that's what it is, fake news. Even though that's not what fake news actually means. What you guys do for a living is fake news.
One thing that's not fake news is that Lin Wood is no longer allowed to practice law. He was staring down the barrel of disbarment. So in Richard Nixon style, he chose to voluntarily give up his law license so that he wouldn't have to be a disgraced, disbarred former attorney. Now he can just be a disgraced former attorney, not this part. But he was a huge purveyor of the 2020 election conspiracies, the big lie. And here he is back in 2020, right after the election, talking about Georgia specifically.
Where's Kelly Loeffler here? Where's David Perdue? He ought to be standing right here. Those two people want your vote, then they ought to tell you what we're telling Brian Kemp. Get a special session of the legislature now. Do not be fooled twice. This is Georgia. We ain't dumb. We're not going to go vote on January 5th in another machine made by China. You're not going to fool Georgians again. Why would you go back and vote in another rigged election? For God's sakes, fix it. You got to fix it before we'll do it again.
Brett, I went to law school, but I must have missed the class where they teach you how to how to do this kind of thing at a rally. Why? How on God's green earth are you an attorney who's just, doing your preacher-esque, call to action on, like, that is not your job even a little bit. And every bad thing that's happened to him as a consequence of this is entirely his fault. Someone who obviously loves the limelight, someone who wants to, be in the news and thinks himself a little more important than he is. But like, the law. You had to pass the bar, and you're standing up there implicating yourself in what you know are crimes. But why?
Because how I've said this, I think, on the show before. Quantum mechanics and Newtonian mechanics are at odds with each other. You get to a certain scale, and the things that normally apply to bodies don't apply anymore. That's what happens at a certain profile in American politics, in a certain level of zeros in your bank account. The things that apply, the Newtonian mechanics of F equals ma, a body in motion will stay in motion. Things have mass and you can't be created. All those things apply to normal people on normal scales. So if I started doing something horrible, so for example, if I said all that stuff on Telegram and was just some schmo who went to the Capitol on January 6th, I would be in jail for 20 years. But Lin Wood, he's in the quantum realm. But in reverse, he's so big now. He's on the largest scale where now he's not necessarily going to get put in jail. And now all of these trials are not trying whether they're guilty or innocent. No. They're trying whether the person is big enough to have the rules not apply to them, or small enough for the rules to apply to them. And the only thing at his disposal is to become big enough by turning state's witness.
Yeah.
And going after Trump and joining the other side. But he's gonna deny that he's doing that until he absolutely has to out himself. And the stuff that you just heard him say on that stage is just a bunch of bald-faced lies that he's hoping and he has confidence he'll get away with telling without consequence. And that's just how he's gonna act, because Trump made it that way in politics.
Right, he did always have that Uno reverse card in his back pocket.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.